Hey everyone, welcome to the Good News Podcast. And today we have a beautiful young man joining us. Some of you who, if you've been around NBUC or followed us, you may have seen him. His name is Evan Geurard. And Evan approached me. He just got back from college and he just really felt led to share a bit of his story of being at college, experiencing so many new things, but also the way that faith played a role in his experience. And I am so glad that Evan brought this conversation to us. Friends, you are going to, I think, really enjoy this. I know I was as blessed by this conversation as any conversation we've had on the Good News Podcast. I was inspired, encouraged, and just grateful for the way God is working again in this beautiful young man's life. Friends, fasten your seatbelts. Get ready for a really good one coming up here. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to the Good News Podcast. And today we've got a very, very beautiful young man as our guest. Some will know Evan Geurard. Evan has been a part of North Bramley United Church for the last several years. Came during COVID. In fact, we're going to talk today about faith and the impact of faith at school, at college, because that's a really amazing experience that Evan's had recently. But Evan, why don't we start by just jumping into a bit of your story and how God brought you to NBUC, because it's kind of cool that happened during the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. So I first got into faith because there's this chick I was interested in high school, and she was religious. So that's honestly the reason I started exploring religion. I'm not gonna lie,
a dating strategy,
kind of. But my mom has been not against organized religion, but sort of against organized religion because of the fact that she's a woman. Just the whole idea of organized religion and how some of them behave, such as the Latter-day Saints, even the Catholic Church to some extent, can be very predatory, especially on young folks. But my mom knew somebody here, Sarah, I can't remember her last name for the life of me, helps out, does the baptisms.
Sarah Symington. Yeah.
She knows her, went to high school with her and whatnot, so she suggested coming here, and then I was just like, all right. And then I actually met Dwayne Whitney.
Yeah.
Literally 2 days before the next lockdown. So I came and got a tour of the church literally the moment I was able to, right before it closed.
Wow.
And then
you're talking March 2020.
Yeah. A while ago, yeah. And then I've just sort of been here ever since, and It's just been great.
Yeah. Cool. It's been quite a journey for you. I know we're going to talk about faith at school, which is really awesome that was a huge part of your school. But maybe to backtrack a little bit, once you got here, you're worshiping online. We're all online. How did you came to a point where you really experienced God in a very significant way? Maybe talk a bit about what that process was like for you and kind of the difference that made in your life overall.
So for me, it was mostly the fact that I felt very welcomed, very able to be me, have questions, doubts, regrets, mistakes, and not have to worry about being judged or having to confess everything I've done wrong to somebody who wears a robe because he's gone to a special academy or whatever. It was respecting me for me. And one of the closest friendships I have now is with Frank Garupso and his wife Corrine, because they literally live 5 minutes down the road from me. And he actually got me my first job. So it's just incredible to see how I came through a girl, and then I was able to meet Dwayne, able to meet Frank, and just feel a whole connection, a whole web of friendships and connections being made. And then I joined Alpha, which was just great. It's one of the best choices I ever made. And I'm not gonna lie, before taking it, I would hear everybody story about it, and I would kind of be well, I don't really believe it if everybody has something positive to say. There's always got to be that one person who's no, it wasn't for me. So it's when everybody is agreeing with it, I was kind of there's something up with it, but that's just not true at all. Because if there was ever going to be that one person who didn't agree with it, it was going to be me.
Wow, okay.
Because it was online, and I didn't like online school. And school was online at the time. So that whole idea was just I didn't really want that. And the fact that I was the youngest person there definitely was a little more awkward as well, but it was definitely a life-changing experience for me, and
Mm.
the way I've grown has been incredible. And for me, like, I read this really amazing quote the other day, and it said, "When you ask God for something, He packs it up and ships it to you right away.
Mm.
But the problem is, you don't know the date. You don't know when it's going to come.
Mm.
Because if you did, it would destroy the one thing He needs of you, which is your faith."
Mm.
So it's like, to me, realizing that faith isn't your ability to sit here and make grand speeches or preach or be able to recognize everything you've done wrong and pray a specific way, like do all these quote unquote like right things. It's your ability to believe in what you want and what you have asked for, and that God is willing to help you get there
Mm.
as long as you're willing to believe in Him.
Mm.
I feel
Mm.
like that's been a huge transformation in my life because I'm able to believe that, okay, I have a set goal and I believe I'm going to get there. And I know that God is my greatest ally
Mm.
and He's someone I can use at any point, at any time. And I know that eventually what I ask and what I need of Him will come through.
Mm. Mm. And what I'm hearing as you're talking about it is, and you have to do your part. Kind of
Yeah.
like
You have
you
to,
took Alpha, and that was a way through which you really experienced a depth
Mhm.
of who God is and a growing relationship with God.
Yeah.
But you kind of stepped into it
Yeah.
and did your part by taking Alpha and trying to open up yourself to it. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned Frank and Corrine, and this is part of your faith journey. And I think sometimes we underestimate the impact that we have on other people because we don't always see it
Yeah.
or know it, or we we wonder maybe, does it make a difference how I live my life, or my life as a Christian, as a follower
Yeah.
of Jesus? Can you say a little bit more about the impact for you
Yeah.
in just in the way Frank and Corrine, very faithful people, young people, people who you were already connected with, kind of cool. Like, so, yeah. How did that help open you up, or part of the process of you coming to faith, or at least coming to certainly a deeper faith than you'd had before? Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, for starters, it was the fact that Frank Hughes was around the same age as my mom. So the fact that like I didn't have a male role model at the time, I was looking for somebody to look up to,
Mm.
and the fact that I was able to work with Frank every day was great. And he's just a super chill guy. Like, I don't think I've ever really seen him in a bad mood, like ever. And it's like, despite the massive or decent age gap between us, we've never had a fight, never really had an argument. It's like we just pretty much see eye to eye on everything. He's always down to like let me come over and stuff, like chill, smoke after work or whatever. Like
Yeah.
just genuinely have a good time. And I feel like because he and his wife were on the welcoming team, they kind of invited me to join that. And
Mm.
I was like, and for the very first church service I attended, like the very first in person one, I don't know if you remember this, it was way back when they were like recording the sessions and then putting them up on the
Oh
screen.
yeah.
And there was only like a certain amount of people
Yeah. Oh,
in the
yeah.
church. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was
They-
hard. That was hard. Yeah.
They invited me for the very first like version of that.
Okay.
And I'm honestly feel like if they didn't invite me, I probably would not have gone because it definitely made it easier knowing that like there was people there that I could at least talk to and whatnot. And once they told me like they had been a part of the church for a while, I was like, okay, so they probably know people that can help me know people. So, and the fact that they were super friendly to me, like straight off the bat and everything, like I was like, damn, if this is how everybody is, like I want to be a part of this.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Well, you've just been at school, and yeah, maybe tell us about that experience, first time away from home, right? In a
Yeah.
significant way like that. I know, love some of the texts that we exchanged, and certainly had a few calls, and we've got a little WhatsApp group
Yeah.
that's out of one of our last Alpha groups together. And yeah, it was cool to kind of relive that experience a little bit anyway, through you. But yeah, what was that like for you, going to
So-
school, moving away, being away from home for the first time?
So I was in Kingston for college, for just a 1 year general arts and science for trades. It was definitely like an experience. So like at first when I moved away, I was like, oh wow, nobody can like tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want, but like, bro, that's not true. No matter
Freedom.
no matter where you are, there's somebody above you who's gonna tell you what to do. If you're renting, it's your landlord. If you own a house, it's the city with their permits. It's
Mm.
it's always something. And it's like, okay, we didn't follow every rule, but like what the RAs don't know can't hurt them. But to an extent, you have to like there's a lot more responsibilities and whatnot. And like you can write them down and see them. And it's like, all right, I know I got to do this, but actually doing it, well, that's a whole different story.
Mm.
That takes effort. It took an entire first semester to find the balance between how to party, how to do my chores, and how to actually study and get
Mm.
good grades. So that was definitely a huge part. It took a lot of maturity, a lot of those calls because like there was a while in the first semester when I didn't have much leave room to pass some of my classes. And the second semester, I was like, oh hell no, I ain't doing that again. I don't want that stress of knowing, okay, I gotta like get 70s or above on some of these. So I pulled all A's and everything this semester except for one
Nice.
class. Meh. But
Good for you.
it was it was great, honestly, and, like, the thing at college too is, like, the kinda social barriers that exist in high school don't really exist. There's not, like, cliques, like, you don't have the jocks, the nerds, the cool kids, etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. Like, people, for the most part, when they're there, have moved there by themselves. They don't travel in groups, so you're all in the same kettle of fish. You're all,
Mm.
for the most part, doing this for the first time. My roommate, that was his first time moving away from home, and we both the main reason we wanted somebody in the same program was so we didn't get lost trying to find our classes.
Mm.
So it's like you always still have that little bit of, okay, even though I'm here by myself, I still do want somebody to kinda help me and guide me a little bit as this is my first time. So, it was definitely a little easier to make friends and whatnot because, yeah, this was where it's only since people just wanna hang out and, like, party. It's like, if there was a party going on, you didn't really need to receive an invitation, and if you did, it was pretty much the entirety of dorms would get
Mm.
invited because nobody really was excluded. Everybody just wanted to, like, be there and enjoy it, and
Mm.
it's like, for me, knowing that I was only there for 1 year, I really wanted it to, like, soak in and get, like, as much as I could out of college, and I
Mhm.
can honestly feel like I got the experience I want from college. I don't, like, regret any decisions
Nice.
I made, so
Nice, nice. Now you mentioned that just needing to learn to balance,
Mhm.
the having fun, partying at school, the, relationships, life. You gotta eat and, do the clean and do these things, clothes. Um, and my guess is as a student for the first time, definitely that's a huge lesson. But
Yeah.
I think probably all of us, whatever our age, whatever stage of life, we often kind of wrestle with that. And how
Mhm.
do I balance all these things that I need to do? And sometimes I feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so how did what did you learn? How did you come to a place where you found a way to balance all of those things?
Uh, it's not easy,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
at all. To anybody who might be struggling with it, like, that's perfectly normal, that's perfectly
Mhm.
fine. Uh, I think the biggest thing for me was recognizing that I'm only human. There's only so many hours in a day, and I need to set aside a certain number of hours for my bare essentials, a certain number of hours to eat, to drink, to shower, to sleep, to relax, to have me time. So that takes away a part of it. So I know there's only a finite amount of time to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
And I know that, okay, if I may not have done everything today, hopefully I can wake up tomorrow and have something to strive for. I
Mm.
can have a goal to at least work for. I don't wake up the next day thinking, great, what am I going to do today? Because it's
Mhm.
like, I already have something I need to do today.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and it's like, but it's also important to balance that with like a good social life. So for me, definitely the first little bit of it, I would only like study. I was cooped up in my dorm
Mm.
and it came at the detriment of healthy relationships and whatnot. And I feel like that, see, while I'm in school, that isn't a big deal. I can focus on that. But later on in life, perhaps those studies change into money that you pursue instead of a spouse or children.
Mm.
So it's important to recognize that, okay, you have goals and things you need to pursue, but you also need to balance that with a social life because relationships are where we as people impact other people and see societal change.
Mhm.
I can
Awesome.
achieve everything I want, But if I don't have any relationships to spread that achievement, those goals, and how I got there, then it doesn't mean anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Mm. I just love the process of prioritization that
mhm.
you learned, yeah, because often I think when we get busy, we can forget about
Yeah.
people.
It's easy to say like,
Yeah, we
"Oh, I'll do
can
it later. I'll do it
yeah, I'll
later."
call them later, and a week goes by, another week, and then all of a sudden
Exactly.
it's like 6 months or a year, and you haven't talked to
And then
somebody.
it's, like, awkward to try and reach back
Yeah.
out to them, but it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just do it. Just
Yeah. No,
reach
and
out,
and
just humble
sometimes in
yourself,
your own
like,
home,
oh, yeah.
maybe it's not school, maybe it's business, maybe it's making money. We can get into a mindset where, we think we're doing something for our family.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure we are in some ways, but
But
just to not lose that
that's,
priority
yeah.
of relationships and people and
Mhm.
and like, good for you. Like that's so cool. So okay, so what would be an example if you can think of one where because you made that shift, like, hey, it's not just about school
Mhm.
here. Like it's about building
It
relationships and connecting with people. Any people who you became friends with, any connections you made, and yeah, that I'm grateful for that. I got that, and I got a good degree, and
Yeah.
I did fine, and that's cool too. But you kind of balance the school with having some time with relationships,
Other
friends.
people,
Yeah,
yeah.
any people that come to mind, like wow, I'm so glad I made that shift because now I know this person. I had this experience with these people, like, that kind of thing.
Uh, Definitely, there's a large friend group I had, uh, in college. It's funny, we just call it side quests because our main quest was to have fun, and all the side quests are everything we do to get there. So, um, for a little while, yeah, like, I didn't hang out with them or anything, and it wasn't I made clear, like, it wasn't them, it was me. Like, I didn't want to hang out, not because of anything they did, but because my priorities were different. And then, like, the few times where I would have a great night, and I'd be like, "You know what? Like, I am, like, doing what I want to achieve," but at the end of the day, like, I'm not really feeling fulfilled, feeling happy because I know, okay, I did all this work, but, like, there's nobody here to celebrate it with me. I'm the only one who,
Mm,
like, can actually bask
hmm,
in my accomplishment,
hmm,
and I feel like nobody really wants that no matter how successful you are. Loneliness is a killer. Like,
mm.
so and then towards the end of the year, yeah, my one friend Lauren, I was chilling in my dorm. She kinda came in, she was like, "I'm kidnapping you and we're going out. You don't get a choice." So I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." And then we ended up going to the beach and, like, having a fire, and everybody was like, "Yo, Evan, I need a picture of you socializing," because,
Hmm.
like, people really wanted to see me, but, like, I, like, did not realize how much people actually, like, wanted to hang out with me and whatnot because I've been so cooped up in my own world of, "I need to do this, this, and
Mm,
this." It
okay.
doesn't matter who, like who I drop along the way. They say, like, when you start to get successful, you lose a lot of people. Though that's not necessarily true. You don't need to lose a lot of
Mm,
people to be successful. Like, that's all how you define success. Success to me is being able to look at my life and say I'm proud and have an impact on other people's life. Like,
mhm.
just a positive impact. And I can say throughout college, I think I definitely did because
Nice.
people would want to hang out with me and whatnot.
Mhm,
So,
mhm. Amazing, amazing. I know in our conversations, you mentioned, Evan, that faith was really important to how you experienced, this year. So how did that play out? How was your faith, your relationship with God? How did it, and especially cool because, when you're at college,
yeah,
sometimes you're away and sometimes people break away from, that part of their life
yeah,
as well. And so just, yeah, curious how it all worked out
yeah.
for you and how it
Yeah,
was still a
totally.
positive thing for
Uh,
you, how it made a difference.
well,
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't go to church every weekend. I would forget some weekends. I wouldn't pray every day. I'd forget some. And I'm not gonna lie. I did not read my Bible a lot, but I feel like my faith would never falter
Mm,
because I feel like everything I was doing it because God wanted me to. I
mm,
would never be like, oh, I don't want to do this and then regret it later on.
mhm,
Anything that I was striving for, I always felt like God was helping me there and assisting me along the way. And whenever I would fall into like a moment of upset, a moment of failure, for example, like in first semester, I went to kind of a rough breakup with currently my ex.
Mm.
Uh, and then so that wasn't easy at all. And then I found myself like really relying on God a lot more and reading. There's certainly parts of the Bible. And I feel like for me, I still pray, but not in a traditional way. Like I don't
Mm.
sit and like cross my legs or go on my knees and pray. To me, I'll be sitting like at a table, sipping like tea and eating breakfast and just kind of ranting out loud about
Hmm.
just whatever. And I feel like that is me just talking to God. I feel like I
Mm.
definitely feel him there. And any conversation I ever have with what some people might consider myself, I feel like is a conversation and a prayer with God, because prayer doesn't always necessarily need to have a structure
Mm.
or a specific way of going about it. Like again, what you pray for isn't important. It's the fact that you pray.
Mm.
So, and the fact that you're appreciating God and taking time out of your day
Mm.
to just say thank you.
Mhm.
He doesn't care about what you put in the middle. He cares about the thought
Mm.
that you put in. Like it's like if you gave him an empty box, he would still be grateful that you gave him the box.
Hmm.
It's the thought that counts. So,
Cool.
like, to me, I wouldn't sit here and necessarily ask for a ton of things, but I would just go on about stuff that would be on my mind that necessarily I didn't want to just have to go with like by myself. I would
Mm.
just kind of say it out loud. And that was how I feel like I grew in faith, was realizing that it's not about having to attend church every single weekend. Like I guarantee you, I'm not the only student or the only one who missed church throughout that last 8 months. Everybody does.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
guarantee you, I'm not the only person who forgot to pray every day
Mm.
throughout those last 8 months. And I guarantee you, I'm not the only person who didn't read my Bible
Mm.
every day for those
Mhm.
last 8 months. So it's like, it's okay. It
Mhm.
happens.
Mm.
God knows that we're human and that we're imperfect, and He wants us that way.
Mm.
He wants us to come to Him and ask for assistance, for help. He's not gonna like get mad at you for
Mm.
messing up, for being a
Mhm.
human, because if that were true, well, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Hmm.
I
Mm.
would have been long perished a while ago.
Mm. None of
So,
us would.
yeah,
None of us would.
God is
Oh.
willing to accept your mistakes and work with you, which is, I feel, the other major way I grew in faith was knowing that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to not necessarily follow God's every step. It's okay to be like, you know what, God, I don't agree with you on this.
Mm.
I'm gonna do this. And then later on realize, "Oh, shit, you were right, bro." Like, it's okay to realize that,
Yeah.
because at every age, you're young and immature. No matter
Mm.
how much you grow up, I don't care. You're still young and immature.
Mhm.
There's always somebody a little older, a little wiser,
Mm.
who's been around the block a couple more times than
Mm.
you. So it's important to know that, you know what, you can mess up and everything's still gonna be okay.
Mm. Oh, I love it. And we're all human. We're all
Yeah.
growing. We're all still finding our way. Doesn't matter what age or stage. I think we
Exactly.
all feel that way. Oh, I love it. I love the graciousness and just like the genuine relationship with God. As you're talking, Evan, um, I'm thinking that partly what was happening over this time of being away was almost like a deepening of your relationship with God, where because it can easily the Christian faith and life can sometimes be like almost like a checkbox,
Yeah, like a
like
set of
I
rules.
prayed and
Yeah.
I read the Bible and I went to church and I don't hear you saying that those things aren't good things or great things.
Oh,
God
yeah,
works through them,
exactly.
but if that's what but it can become a
Mhm.
checklist, and what it's
Like
meant to be, all that's supposed to meant to foster and flourish feed your
mhm.
relationship with God,
Yeah.
with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. And it feels like you entered into a time where sometimes those things happened, sometimes they didn't, but you went almost even a little deeper in
Yeah.
those very honest, genuine conversations with God. You mentioned, and you would just feel God's presence. You would feel, I think sometimes people wonder, what is that? What does
Mhm.
that look like? What does that feel like? I wonder if you could describe what those moments of feeling a
Yeah,
sense of God's presence are like for you. That I think it'd be really, really
yeah,
helpful.
for
Mhm.
sure. For starters, about the checklist thing, yeah,
Yeah.
one of my friends, definitely, they asked me, they're like, "So, like, I was, like, Christian for a while, but I found the whole faith to be, like, a set of rules you have to follow that kinda stop you from having fun." And they were Catholic, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'm Protestant." They were like, "Oh, you're the fun Christians." It's
Oh,
like,
jeez.
"Okay,
Oh.
that's a nice label." I was like, "It's not that I'm a
Yeah.
fun Christian, it's that I know that the rules God set in place are not set in stone or not a way to prevent you from having fun. They're a way to help guide you and help you grow in life, especially when you mess up. You can
Hmm.
turn back to those and realize where you messed up
Mm.
and then do better moving forward. It's not, oh, if you don't do this, you're done. It's, oh, maybe you messed up. Hey, let's look back and, oh, here's where I messed up. And then you can scroll through the Bible, for say, or through church or through a
Mhm.
podcast and find somebody who maybe went through the same thing
Mm.
and figure out how they overcame it. So it's not how exactly you live life to like be like this. It's just
Mhm.
how you can like be better around those core principles.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
And in terms of feeling God's presence, it for me manifests in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
Uh, I'll start with the first one. It's actually guilt.
Mm.
Um, so for me, if I've done something I know is wrong, for example, I've gone out of my way to try and ruin somebody's day, try and ruin somebody's happiness, or something like that, I'll feel God's presence in the form of guilt. He'll be like, "Bro, what you
Mm.
doing? Like,
Mm.
come on, you're trying to take away something that I have given to somebody else.
Mm.
That's not cool,
Mm.
just because you don't feel it." And other times, it would manifest itself in the form of reaching out. I would oftentimes just text some of my friends and be like, "Hey, I'm just checking in. Are you good?"
Mm.
And then they would be like, "You know what? No, I'm not." And it's just a miracle you happened to text me.
Wow.
And it would just be a nudge from God, just being like, "Hey, you haven't talked to this person in a while. Why don't you do it?" Or it's like that gut feeling you get that kind of pushes you in either direction. When you're like right on the edge, if it's pushing you to do something or to not do something, I feel like that is God's presence in my life because He already knows the consequences, good or bad, of what's going to come of either decision.
Mm.
So when I feel myself being nudged to do something, to go a certain way, particularly if it's something positive, like if I'm being nudged to talk to somebody, to do a set of chores, to yeah, just even like talk to somebody in my family, be like, "Hey, how's your
Mm.
day been?" I'll usually take that as a sign from God, and that's kind of how I feel His presence in my life. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be these big, huge, grand things, but the moment I feel like you start to appreciate smaller, simpler things in life, the sunset, the sunrise, your friendships, the nice weather, the fact that we live in free country, you notice much more of God's presence throughout your life
Mm.
and throughout your day to day.
Mm. Mhm. Absolutely. Oh, awesome. I just want to amen. Yeah, yeah. And so back to how did all of that um impact your experience of being at school?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely made it much better, I
Yeah.
will say.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that, yeah, I don't regret it. I had a bump in time at college. It was a blast. And I consider myself very, very fortunate because I know that there are people out there much more academically talented than I am who could probably do much better trades than I can, but simply do not have the resources to attend college.
Mm.
So I consider myself immaculately lucky
Mm.
that I was able to just be there
Mm.
to get that experience of what college is like. You know what? I was able to live away at home.
Mhm.
I made friendships and relationships and connections for the very first time in my life. And it's like, it was simple things that I would start to do that would make me realize, you know what? I'm slowly turning into an adult. Like, first time you had to go grocery shopping by yourself, first time you had to make a list, like,
Hmm.
the heck is that? Like, bro, I don't know what kind of milk we buy. All I know is it's in the pitcher and it's cut. Like, it's just,
That's
I don't know.
great.
Like, stuff like that. It's crazy, and then you look back at it and you're like, "Damn, I really did it. I overcame
Nice.
college. I got my diploma. I went and I did what I needed to do."
Cool.
Faith for me throughout it has made me realize, like, you know what? Every moment that I had in college was one that I should savor and one that
Hmm.
definitely helped me grow and made me the person I am today. And I feel like if I didn't attend specifically St. Lawrence, like, I also got accepted to Algonquin and Cambrian, uh, but I feel like if I didn't go where I went and experienced the specific things I experienced, I wouldn't have been able to develop the faith and I guess into the person I am now. And it definitely helped having the WhatsApp group, like
Mm,
chat in from time to time. It was definitely great. And online church
mm.
helps. It was definitely like online church for me. It's not the same as being in person.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Yep.
but it's like you definitely feel a connection. People make an effort to make you feel included,
Nice.
despite being so many miles away. Like I think it's like 400 kilometers away, whereas from NBUC. So the fact that I'm able to have that distance and still feel right here is incredible. And also, not to mention, like you have reading week
Hmm.
and Christmas break and March break and whatnot, where I was able to come back and actually experience
Yeah.
in person church and just re-feel the love and the connections that I had back home. Because it's easy sometimes to move away and forget about that
Hmm.
and be
Hmm.
like, you know what? Like I'm here. You get caught up in your new life, like, you're girl bossing it, guy bossing it, whatever. Like you're 18, you're invincible.
Mm.
And it's easy to forget like your roots of where you came from. So for me to be able to come back home and to like feel that love again was definitely something that helped keep me humble and keep me like grounded in my faith journey.
Very cool. Oh man, Evan, thanks so much. I love the way that you express that and live it and growing. We all grow when you grow. We all grow when you share this, man. And just I've been blessed by this conversation. Thanks so much. And I want to finish with a good news podcast rapid fire here, if we could. What's the best thing going on in your family, in your home these days?
Honestly, it's just the fact that I'm back home. Just the reconnection of
Hmm.
family getting back together and whatnot. My aunt's graduating this October, or not this October, this August. Uh, my brother's going into grade 11. And yeah, so it's
Cool.
just been
Just being
great.
back home, connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Best thing going on in your community, in your neighborhood.
Definitely more people are coming out and enjoying the nice weather. I
Beautiful.
see a lot more parties. I've had a lot more interactions with my neighbors and whatnot. So that's just been great.
Yeah, right on. Best thing going on in the world. Big one. Hmm.
Honestly, I would say the fact that, you know what? We're still here. An asteroid
Mm.
hasn't wiped us out or nothing
Mm.
catastrophic has happened. There are major events going on around the world that's easy to get wrapped up in. You see negative stuff on the news all the time, but you know what? We're still here. We're
Mm.
still finding a way to
Mhm.
make Earth a better place.
Mm. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah,
And love to
thank you.
pray for you before we close here if I could. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh God, thank you. Thank you so much for this beautiful young man and for the faithful way that you continue to lead him and love him and fill him the way you work through him. I can just imagine so many people at St. Lawrence at college in Kingston where he has been blessed by his presence and by the way that he would interact with them because of who you are in his life and the way that you continue to overflow through him. Thank you for just those moments of feeling your presence, of guidance, of nudges. Continue to give to give those moments and direction to Evan as he carries on with his life. Whatever is next, that you will be, that you are with him every single step of the way. So we thank you for all of this and just praise you for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thanks, my man.
Thank you.
Awesome to be with you. Yeah,
You
awesome to
too.
be with you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, being a part of the Good News Podcast conversation today. And always appreciating you and cheering you on and praying for you as well. God bless you and be with you. Oh man, I don't know about you guys, but I appreciated so many things about this conversation, and I'm a different age than Evan. I'm a different stage of life than Evan, but I still could relate to so many things that he said. That the idea of balancing things, and trying to make life work, from schooling to relationships to just the regular everyday stuff. The lesson of prioritization, of putting people first, of really recognizing at the end of the day, life is about relationships, about the people that we get to share our life with. So to invest in those, to put time into those, to be intentional about those. What great lessons for all of us, and so glad that God brought those lessons to Evan through his time at school. I also really appreciated Evan's authenticity, just how and a very real, expressing the newness of life at college, the challenges, but even and especially around his faith. Just recognizing that some of the things that maybe he'd done before, whether it be reading the Bible or being at church every Sunday, like service at every Sunday, maybe those things weren't happening in quite the same way, and yet God was still with him. God was still reaching out to him and led him into this very honest and real, prayerful, open, genuine conversation where maybe Evan went even deeper in his life with God. You can kind of feel that, sense that. So that is really, really cool to me. I hope that you've been inspired by that as well. And friends, you may know a young person who is heading off to school, or maybe is in school now. Maybe you want to share this conversation with them, because it might be hopeful for them as well. I know it certainly was for me, and I look forward to sharing this with lots of people that I know, and encourage you to do the same. You can also follow us on Instagram, Good News with Jamie Holtum. Don't forget to subscribe, and then you too will you'll be updated whenever a new episode is released, which is pretty much every week. Friends, it's so good to share life with you. Really do value you, and thanks for being a part of the Good News Podcast family. God bless you and be with you, and hope to see you again real soon. Next week, we are going to start a new summer series called Unsung Heroes. We're going to look at some really awesome stories, some amazing people who often we just never hear about because they're behind the scenes, but they're doing incredible stuff through which God is blessing people. I can't wait for this summer of Unsung Heroes. Hope you can join us. God bless you, friends, and hope to see you again real soon.